Today we're in Albany, New York, exploring an incredible private garden with YouTube creators Eric and Christopher. They took a blank canvas and turned it into something magical. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned as we garden smart in upstate New York.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
This week on Garden Smart, we traveled to historic Albany, New York, where inspiration is blooming behind the scenes. Host Eric Johnson meets Eric and Christopher, 2 passionate YouTube creators of Grow For Me gardening who have transformed their private backyard into a breathtaking garden retreat. From bold design choices to clever planting combinations, their space is full of surprises and smart ideas for gardeners of every level. It's a visit filled with beauty, creativity, and practical tips you can take home. So join us as Garden Smart explores a hidden gem in the heart of Albany, New York.
Christopher and Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to seeing your garden for so long, and it's wonderful to be here in Albany, New York, and finally get a chance to look at it.
Well, welcome to the garden. Thank you for coming.
Indeed. So I'd love to learn how you got involved in gardening and really what sparked your passion. This place is amazing. You put so much into it.
Thank you. In 2018, we built our house. It's a suburban rectangle lot, and our house is actually 50 by 60. It's a very contemporary ranch. We walked outside after they installed the landscaping package that it came with and thought, wow, this doesn't really do it for us. Neither of us had ever actually gardened. And then we took to the internet. We watched YouTube, we watched Gardener's World, and fell in love with it. Oh, we wanted to create privacy. So because this was a brand new neighborhood and it was just flat, sandy lot, the first thing we kind of thought about was, how are we going to delineate our property line? Not because we want to be unfriendly, but because we want privacy in our backyard. And so we knew that on the west side of our property, that there was going to be a long stretch of backyards all lined up, and we thought we're going to find some shrub that gets really big and can be in full sun. And it brought us to hydrangeas. The first big project back in 2018 was a giant hedge of limelit hydrangeas. There are about 15 of them, about 75 feet long, and they're no longer here, but that was a great way to learn and experiment and start bringing in like a big, beautiful hydrangea shrub into the garden.
When I speak with couples who garden, I'm always interested in seeing how the division of labor works. Oftentimes one is more of the creative and the other is more like I'm the pruner. How does that dynamic work for you?
I think it's pretty equally split between the two of us. I think that I'm probably a little pushier when it comes to the ideas and the design component of it, sure. But I would never just go ahead and make a decision without running it by Christopher. And Christopher is definitely more of the
hustler in the morning to get out there and get the Japanese beetles off the shrubs and like do the pruning before it gets too hot, and I'll take care of watering and you do irrigation. I mean,
Right. You know, we've kind of figured out what our little jobs are. I love creating the edges and making the shapes of the bed. And then I know that he's going to come in and he's going to know exactly how to place those 5 or 7 perennials. He's going to know the layering is really something that he excels at.
I find it really interesting that much of your education, if you will, in horticulture and gardening came through online videos and the like. And that's a resource that is fairly new. And of course, you guys are great content creators.
Yeah, the content was a total accident. We had an Instagram and Eric was posting pictures of the garden. So he would post a few pictures, and then as things grew, we eventually started the YouTube channel, and it really just grew from there. So it was all accidental.
it was, but as it's developed and it's intentional now,
Right.
we try to be the content creators or create the content that we would have wanted to see
Right.
as a newer gardener. We were just talking about this yesterday when we were filming a video about the hydrangeas in our garden and what to include when we were discussing each hydrangea variety. And I was thinking, you know, as a new gardener, I would have wanted to know what size was that when you planted it? How many years has it been in the ground? How long did it take for it to get that big? So we're always trying to create content that's valuable, that's useful, educational, entertaining. And we want to be gardeners first that happen to create content.
One thing I would love to know is in the process of thinking through the content that you are going to create, do you find that to be a process that presses you in the direction of composing things more thoughtfully to the end of generating content? Or for you, is it more, this is just what we're doing and this is the reality of this week in our life?
I prefer the latter.
Okay.
I really wanted to be like, this is just what we're doing. And because we both work full-time jobs. We're not full-time
Right,
content
okay.
creators. So it's something that we do on literally just on Sunday.
Our content for the spring was installing our west border. We had videos about planting around the pondless waterfall. So it was focused in that direction. It was really what we were doing.
Right.
As we go into the summertime, when it's more maintenance season, we may, hold off on deadheading something. Maybe that week I don't go out every morning so that we have something more focused on Sunday.
Really making content does have an impact is it makes you get like a week or two ahead of where you normally would be.
Well, we're here to see the garden and just have you guys talk about, how these different beds came about and, your design philosophies and then where you see it going in the future. Your garden's been an evolution over the last few years, and of course, like most gardeners, you started with just some small areas, and then as you became more and more passionate about it, and as inspiration struck, it just became like a work in progress. And of course, there's a lot of lessons that you've learned along the way. I'd like for you both to start by giving us an overview of the garden, kind of walk us through, where did it start, how did it evolve, and how do you want viewers to experience your garden?
Sure. I mean, our garden started back in 2018. This is a new construction home. So when we moved in that March, there was nothing here. It was a blank slate, just sand. And after we had, gone to the local garden center and gotten inspired by how to work with the foundation bed, we also had to consider privacy because there were no fences, there were no trees in the neighborhood at all. So one of the big things we wanted to do was look at our yard from the inside of our house and what will we see out of our window and what will soften the straight lines of our contemporary home. So we really started with things like the tricolor beech behind us that'll bring that bright, interesting pink foliage to the front of the home, this really interesting structure that even during the wintertime will have, visual interest. And the columnar juniper also brings that visual interest and softens that square edge. And then right behind us, the Royal Frost birch is a tree that we can see right from our great room, so we can enjoy it out the window. And so we thought, where do we want privacy? Which led us to a hydrangea hedge on the west side. And once we kind of got those things in the ground, then we started to connect them all. And we connected them by creating little vignettes all throughout the garden. And we have kind of our design guidelines that we created for ourselves of incorporating blue foliage, reddish purple foliage, green foliage, and a yellowy chartreuse foliage, and an evergreen in every vignette. And I think that when you give yourselves those little guidelines and you create vignettes throughout your garden, then you connect them together, it just kind of makes it all more cohesive.
There's a great sense of motion and fluidity to your garden. And I think a lot of that is owing to the curvilinear beds and pathways lead you in a direction, and then you come around a corner and there's like an element of surprise.
When we got to looking at the property, obviously we're on a rectangle in the suburb, and our house is almost a perfect square. And it's a ranch, so it's very much this square shape, and we have a lot of vinyl siding. So when we were placing our plants along the way, the idea was to kind of break that up. So we have a columnar Scotch pine that we knew eventually would cover up a big piece of that. And the curves almost develop naturally, because when you plant something in front of your beautiful columnar shrub, it's gonna grow out, rounded. So over time, of course, the curves have gotten deeper, but it is a sense of, as you walk down, especially the east side, which I think is the side of the house we kind of cut our teeth in gardening on.
Right.
Yes.
A lot of the border from our redbud tree back was planted, at least the big structure things, before the fence. It's also very funny, we were pretty close to straight lines, considering, you know, being close to the property line. But it's just been such an exercise in seeing how to create layers of texture and interest. And this is always one of my favorite views, because if you're here, you see one set of layers. If you're in the hydrangea room, there's another set of layers. And then we have the arch with the climbing rose and clematis planted on it, which smell beautiful and it looks beautiful, but it gives you this not just visual, but physical separation from the backyard. And then once you go back there, that's when you're greeted with some of the new stuff, including our terrace and the entire garden around it, which Eric drew when he was homesick. And this all led us to looking out last season at our limelight hydrangea hedge, 85 feet of beautiful 6-year-old mature limelights, and thinking, we're gonna tear them all out. All 15 of them are alive and well. 5 of them are across the street next to their pool, and 10 of them went to another friend's house. They all woke up, they're all safe.
Wonderful. Whenever you can rehome a plant,
Exactly.
that is a very, very happy day.
Yes.
You guys mentioned that one of the things that was important to you was breaking up a lot of the more rigid straight lines. And as you said, you have a square house, and then you've got a fence that goes around
Yes.
a square yard. And so, you know, there was a lot of thought that went into how do we soften this? How do we make it feel, you know, and flow more naturally? And these mixed borders that you've made along the fence lines are really, really beautiful, and I think exemplify that design technique really well. Talk us through the plants that you use and the way that you thought about this design.
Sure, I mean, this mixed border behind us originated with creating or installing anchor plants. And you'll notice there's a pattern behind us right now of evergreens that repeat along the length of the fence, including the centerpiece evergreen, which is the Tromnar blue spruce. And then between those evergreens, there's more repetition. There's a repetition of the little quickfire hydrangea with the pinky winky hydrangea. And that's all well and good, but you wouldn't want to leave your garden there because then it would be perfectly symmetrical along a fence. So what that repetition allows us to do is then kind of create this cacophony of color and texture in front of it. And so it doesn't get overwhelming. It's kind of subliminal, right?
Right, you know, and it's very much that rhythm concept. So there is this rhythm to the back, you know, like marching band kind of rhythm. But then in front, you get all this new stuff. You get the different colors and textures. And yes, we're gonna get blooms from the little quickfire and the pinky winky, but seasonally, we're gonna have something from the anemone and the sedum. There's also been beautiful spring blooms already have come through. That's where we play. You know, that's where we add in the different smaller stature shrubs, and sometimes, you know, we love Verbena bonariensis. It reseeds itself all throughout our garden. It hasn't made it all the way over here yet. And I would love to see that even at the front of the border, just this really open, different texture. But again, with that repetition in the back, it makes it feel purposeful, and then you can play.
It's kind of like a skeleton that keeps it all kind of somewhat structured, but all the plants in the foreground certainly make it feel whimsical and cottagey, but you know, to your point, that kind of contemporary cottage type design, it doesn't seem disorganized either.
Yes, and one of the things we've learned over time is to make it more visual impact is don't be afraid to plant in bigger drifts.
Right.
You know, planting 3 of something is nice, but planting 7 of something is even nicer because it makes a bigger impact, just like the Oh So Easy Peasy roses. That makes a big impact when those are in full bloom and the color is playing against the Tronnar spruce. It really is kind of show-stopping when you come underneath the garden arch. And that's the other thing is when you're thinking about these vignettes and you're pairing these plants next to each other, make sure they're different from each other. Whether it's the color intensity is different or the foliage is very different. You don't want to plant something super similar to something else.
One thing I think you've done a really, really thoughtful job of is really bringing the garden to the home and allowing it to be an extension of your living space. And I think that's one of the wonderful treats in gardening is your living space basically is just a component of your garden.
Absolutely. When we had started gardening, as we said, we wanted to see certain trees out the windows. And when we decided we would do something for a terrace, originally it was going to be a deck. We presented it to a landscaper as a deck, and because of material costs, it turns out that the stone, which we had never considered because we thought the stone would be more, turns out it was cheaper. It feels so wonderful in the morning to walk out and you're really connecting with the garden immediately, not just because of the containers, but I mean, you're pulled in immediately by the sound of the waterfall. And then this area down here where we call it the potager, the kitchen garden, we have learned a lot about what we like to eat, what we're good at growing. You know, we've recently just planted a lot of blueberry bushes. Behind you, there's a bush cherry and a blackberry, but we still wanted beautiful elements. So we have these urns here with the calibrachoa and a different kind of hydrangea. So it does feel like we're kind of nestled into the garden. Part of the original design was curvy beds around our very square hardscaping. So this area, we paid special attention to what size things are going to get. Always having a lot of fragrance involved. We have roses up close. And then the fire bowl area, it's wonderful. Putting the pergola over, again, in metal, very squared. It's not, you know, wooden with, you know, corbels or anything like that. It's a really nice space. So we've definitely enjoyed bringing the garden in while kind of pushing our way back out at the same time.
One of the many questions we get from viewers all the time, especially when they see a beautiful garden like this, is, okay, you did all the work, you have this. What do you do to maintain it? You know, this is basically weed-free, everything looks happy and healthy, and how do you keep your garden looking this great?
This is a weekend hobby for us. We really do have a kind of rule when you're out in the garden, you see a weed, you pick a weed. And of course, we knew you were coming, so we did a little extra.
Yes, we appreciate that you think it's weed-free.
Yes,
But there's definitely weeds, yes.
One of our main tools against weeds is that's why we plant so thickly.
Right.
Often people say, wow, that stuff looks all squished together. No sun on the soil means no weed seed germination. But we have a drip irrigation system. So when we need to supplement water, we're going to run the drip irrigation. That automatically takes a huge chore off.
Right.
For things like budworms and Japanese beetles, I do a weekly spray. That's a Sunday morning chore. A lot of those maintenance chores, we find ways to make them easier. And so that it can be a once a week or every couple mornings, deadheading roses, for instance.
Yes, I think getting out in the morning and not going out with the idea that, oh, I have to tend to the garden, but more of the idea of, oh, I get to take care of the garden. And I'm going to go out and I'll deadhead a little bit and I'll do what I can and I'll do what I want. So none of it ever really becomes a chore. And really just focusing on enjoying the garden, getting those weeds under control, deadheading when you can, keeping an eye out for pests, really being a team when it comes to caring for the garden really makes it a lot easier.
And I think one thing that you've definitely done really, really well is you understand the importance of great soil and irrigation coupled with putting the right plant there. And of course, that's the part that comes just through experience and experimentation. But being willing to like, oh, this plant's not happy here, let's go put it somewhere and make it happy, so that, to your point, when the plants are all touching each other, you don't tend to have weed problems then.
And like a lot of gardeners in the Northeast, when we started our gardens, we used black bark mulch because it's very popular in this area. Instead of using that bark mulch again, let's just do compost, and we'll just put that compost over the top of the mulch that we currently have, and it'll all work its way into the soil. Because we have this sandy backfill soil, we thought that would be the best way to improve the overall health of the garden. And so that takes care of improving the soil and fertilizing the plants at the same time.
We do have bunnies and we do have deer. So coming up with those solutions there's some game changers. And I never thought that vinyl coated black chicken wire would be the difference between us having roses, having yarrow, having gomphrena, and not.
You mentioned earlier the limelight hedge that was one of your first plantings ever, and we're now seeing, of course, the evolution of the garden where the old has gone out, and then now we have this beautiful new garden.
Yeah, I mean, for this space in particular, it was a big decision because we loved that limelight hedge so much. But when we knew we were going to take it out, we knew that timing would be crucial because we wanted to rehome those hydrangeas. So we thought we would prepare this new garden space by taking the limelight hedge out in the fall so that those limelights had the best chance at transplanting well. We then took the time to carve out the shape of the bed that we wanted. We walked it quite a bit. We edged it out. We made sure it was exactly what we wanted. And then we removed the grass. And then to help prepare the soil for the spring, it was just loaded with compost to sit all winter long so it could just sit there ready to wake up in the spring for us to plant.
So the first thing that happened in spring was the pondless waterfall install. And this is the kind of thing that we really had to release a lot of control for, because Decker's Pondscapes, when they came in, they showed up with a lot of equipment and a huge truck of boulders. So we did not know what to expect. Something that's really cool though is as they dig it out, they berm the area up. So all of a sudden we had topography. But the next thing that happened was this remarkable experience of trees arriving.
Yes, anchor plants. We really wanted to anchor the space. And although some of them are very small right now, they are there, those evergreens that echo the evergreens on the other side of the yard. So we went through and really thought about where are these special moments in the garden we're going to anchor things in. And then from there it was shrubs.
There's a few things along this border that we actually had to then plan for their mature size, which, thank goodness for annuals, that's what you do in between while your shrubs grow. Then comes the perennial layer. But once we had everything in, there was a day of irrigation. And I really think that this level of planning ahead, we took the time with each individual layer to say, okay, how do these play?
When you're gardening and putting in a new bed, you have to be kind to yourself, first of all, and understand that, yeah, you're probably gonna make some mistakes. You might plant some stuff too close together, too far apart. Things are gonna die. You might not like it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but knowing that your garden's always going to be changing, because even though this is done for the season right now, we know it's not done.
Right, absolutely. Well, guys, it's been such a special day, and I'm really, really happy that we were able to take a walk through your garden and learn from your triumphs and learn from your failures. And in our next episode, we're going to be really taking a close look at the specific vignettes that you've created and the plants that make those up, the plants that you are really excited about, the plants that maybe you're not as enthusiastic about, and talk more about design and making the whole thing come together. Thank you guys so much.
You are absolutely welcome.
Thanks.
Each week we travel the country north to south, east to west, visiting some of the most exciting gardens, as well as talking to industry horticulturalists about design principles, new plants, and also how you can be most successful with your home gardens. We also love answering your gardening questions, so visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven winners flowering shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
Today, we explored an inspiring private garden with Eric and Christopher, 2 creators turning their vision into a living work of art. If you have questions about anything you've seen today, visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, even if you're a master gardener, there's always more to learn. So join us next week for more gardening tips and ideas as we garden smart.